Hi, just want to welcome everybody to the TBN conference. Today you have a special treat. But before that, let me introduce myself. My name is Melvin Mark. I'm the chairman of TBNAsia. All right. We are a nonprofit that is registered in Singapore, and the focus is how to fight poverty through enterprise. All right. And so what we're going to do is that we are wanting to do this in support of especially social enterprises that are multipliers that works with social enterprises in Southeast Asia. We believe in using collaboration, empowerment, dignity, hope, and restoration to bring that about. So that's the important thing that we have. And TBN has what we call 5 pillars that we operate on. Right? On one hand, if you look at the left-hand corner of our slide, we call it the Social Entrepreneurship Training Hub, which is SEF, that is helping to build capacity on social enterprises, especially revenue generating, to make them investment ready. So that's where this particular session is so relevant to building up the social entrepreneurs. And then we have an expertise network that deals with bringing together all the industry mentors, specialists like lawyers, supply chain people, IT specialists, marketing, accounting, and so on, together to come in to help. Plus, coaches that are primarily concerned with the life and the building up of the social entrepreneur. And then, of course, events like conferences that we are operating right now, which is so important because we bring together all the ecosystem of the impact space. For example, people who are the banks, the impact funds, the family offices, NGOs, foundations, individuals who are passionate about how can we lift the poor out of poverty, right? And to work that together, we have what we call an investors club. Now, this is something that we are working with different networks in Singapore, in Malaysia, in Indonesia, in Thailand, in Philippines, Hong Kong, and very soon, perhaps Australia and Japan, where these are individuals, perhaps family offices, foundations, and they really want to do good, but they just wanted to say, who do I help? Who do I support? Who's ready? So we want to network with them. And then, of course, we have what we call the resilience program. There's something that is so relevant for this particular conference, which is Survive to Thrive. During the midst of COVID-19, how we can actually help lift and support social enterprises so that they are afloat, surviving, but more than that, so that when the COVID-19 is averted, they can thrive. So all the what we call that registration fees, all the sponsorship programs and monies go into what the TBN wants to do in the resilience program. So you are welcome to put part of what you are doing to help in this program as well. So so the resilience program itself works in 2 particular countries, one in Malaysia, one in Indonesia. We work with, in a sense, 3 kind of channels. One is matchmaking, putting together those who says, I want to fund and want to help a social enterprise, and then we matchmake that together. And then there is grant that we will be giving. So part of TBN's contribution would be grants in helping the social entrepreneur. And then the third, perhaps the more lasting part of it, is what we call resilience fund, which is really how to provide loans to help the social enterprises. So it's so important. We are right now working in Malaysia and Indonesia to bring that about. So that's, in a sense, the most concrete expression of what do we do, all right, out of this conference. So you can be a part of it. But this conference is not actually possible without really the help of all our sponsors and partners, for which we are deeply indebted and grateful. And many of you who are signed up, all your money is actually go also into the resilience program. And we ask that you continue to do that as well. But right now, it's so good for us to be able to see and introduce one of my good friends, okay? Kim Poong. Kim Poong and I, we go back quite a number of years. In fact, Kim Poong, myself, and another friend called Mason, who runs the Garden Impact Fund, we actually co-founded TBN some 6 years ago. And we have become good friends, you know, comrade in arms for this cause. And Kim Poong is not just a board member and a co-founder of TBN. Actually, he's a founder and CEO of a organization called Strengths Asia. Okay, CEO is not your normal chief executive officer. For me, CEO is chief encouragement officer, and that is what he is. In fact, it's so important because really, the whole thing is about leadership. Whole thing is about the entrepreneur. So Kim Poong brings into this space of how to lift the poor out of poverty to enterprise by equipping not so much the enterprise itself, but the entrepreneur himself or herself, because that's where it's so important. If the leadership of the enterprise is not there, if the communication, the team building, you know, the strengths of this leader or the entrepreneur is not highlighted and helped, then the enterprise can go as far as how the entrepreneur is. And that's why it's so important. This is one of our key values that we have in terms of TBN. So it's really a great pleasure and a privilege for me to introduce Kim Poong. And for the next, I don't know, 45, 50 minutes, you'll hear him, you'll get encouraged, all right? And you get interested to say, okay, I want to not just want to help in the space of social entrepreneurship. I want to help myself, because when I help myself, I can help the others as well. All right, so if you can, you know, virtual, put your hands together and welcome Kim Poong.
All right. Thank you very much, Melvin. Melvin, if you can hear me, can you just give me a thumbs up? So I want to make sure that my audio is okay. Awesome, cool. Hello, everybody. Once again, my name is Kim Poong, and I just want to thank Melvin. He's a good friend of mine and also a very generous friend of mine. He often, the way he introduces me, I'm actually on level 1. He will introduce me and put me on the mezzanine floor on level 1000, right? So that kind of set up the standard that is kind of impossible to reach here. Even though he mentioned that, I'm one of the 3 co-founders for TBNAsia, I need to make a public confession here. In all the years that TBNAsia has been founded, it is Melvin and together with Mason Tan that has done 100% of all the work here. I essentially, wrote on their coattails. And as and when they need me to carry their bags and do certain work for them, that's where I come up and I carry the bags and I mop the table and do all the things that, I can do, but they do all the heavy carrying here. It is a great pleasure to see everybody here. I know there are all of you that's making time here this afternoon. So I just want to go straight to the point and just start sharing what I want to share today. Before we go on, I need to just make some really quick administrative announcements here. Now, this platform is a little bit different from the other platforms for Zoom that you've been previously attending if you've been coming for the TBNAsia conference. So if you need to ask any question, the chat box is already open. So go ahead as I'm sharing. If there's any questions or any perspective, go ahead and just populate in the chat box here, right? And then at the end of my sharing, which is I think about 45 minutes, then we'll take the question, we'll take the perspective, and we'll revisit that again. Second thing, you're more than welcome to use the icons if you can actually access them. If you like a certain point, give me a thumbs up. You like a certain point, give me the virtual applause. Go ahead and do that. Just make this a little bit interactive here. Okay, so let us get started here. And I don't know about you, but for me, I've been attending, the conference for the last few days. And, for the last few days, for me personally, the experience, have just been really, really fascinating here. It was such a great pleasure to be able to see old friends, coming on the Zoom platform, coming onto the virtual conference, and sharing again, their social enterprises. It was great, to catch up on their stories, to see them updating their stories, listening to their struggles and all that. So and at the same time, I was, had the opportunity to kind of meet new entrepreneurs, sharing new ideas, new social enterprises and all that. And as I was listening, to the conference for the last 3 days, what was on my heart was two very, very strong and visible emotions here. The first emotion was that of a really, really powerful, strong encouragement. I was so encouraged, hearing the stories of all the social enterprises that are out there. A number of them, I've known them for a number of years right now, and they're still at it. They're still on point with the mission. They're still resilient. They're still pressing on. They're still not giving up, right? I remember, I met a young man called, Jackie, from Malaysia. And back then when I first met him, he was just beginning to dabble with the social enterprises. And I asked him, hey, what is it that you want to do? He said, hey, I want to turn water hyacinth into fuel. Can you imagine that? There's another lady called Suzanne Ling from Picha Eats. And I think if you have attended the seminar yesterday, you would have heard her talk. And one of the very interesting stories about Picha Eats through Suzanne was, I met her a couple of years ago, and I asked her, hey, why is it that of all people you choose to serve the refugees? And she gave me an answer that was really philosophical here. And she said, Kim Poong, we never choose where to be born. For these guys who are refugees, they never chose to be born into a war-torn country, and as a result, they never choose to be born into the status of a refugee. And I myself, right, and Suzanne said, I never choose to be born into Malaysia. I never choose to be born into a family or into a society that gives me the education and the privileges here. And when my path and with the refugee path and where that crossed, I just knew I had to serve them. I remember that, Suzanne, when you shared that with me, it's burned deeply into my consciousness here. And to this date, as I listen to stories like her, sharing about, what they're doing to really keep these enterprises going, it is really, really so encouraging here. So that's one really strong emotion that I had. The second really strong emotion that I had was, as you listen, throughout all this conference, throughout these conferences and sharing and all that, I can't help but be constantly reminded of the reality that we are all in today because of COVID-19. Now, there were a number of social enterprises that I knew of years ago, right? And they were starting out from being nothing. They were just dabbling. They were just getting out there to see, hey, can we do something for the people that we care about? And then over the years, they put in the investment, they put in the structures, they put in the funding, they roll up their sleeves, they did all the hard work, and eventually they became something. But today, staring right into their faces, a number of them are going from something into becoming nothing again. And that is the reality that's brought on, by COVID-19 here. And I guess that is the reason why TBNAsia brought forward, our conference from July into this present day here. And we're saying, hey, looking at 100% of all the proceeds, we're going to give it to the social enterprises and keep them going. And I'm going to take the next couple of minutes just to do a little bit of quick advertising here, right? Now, as you and I know, we have also set up this thing called the Resilience Fund here. And the Resilience Fund essentially, is to do a lot more on top and above of the 100% proceeds that we're giving to the social enterprises here. And so if you want to kind of, resonate with this, right? You want to find out more about what this Resilience Fund is all about. I've just put the details up on the screen beside me here. Go ahead and text LXT, because LXT is a guy that is responsible and heading this particular pillar in TBNAsia here. He is an amazing, humble guy, and I'm very sure he will be willing to sit down over Zoom and explain to you what this Resilience Fund is all about. Now, the way to do this is really simple. Take out your camera and just scan the QR code here. And this QR code will lead you directly to your email. And all you need to do is just press send, and the email message basically say, Alex, please contact me, right? And he will be in touch with you. So go ahead and do that. So coming back, the two emotions, one was one of encouragement, and the other one for me, right, was the constant reminder of the reality that we are in today. Now, if you look at all the social enterprises that are on the TBNAsia platform, there's something that is insanely true about every one of them. Every one of them exists to do one simple thing, and that's the only one thing they do. They exist to do good to those very people that they are serving. They want to alleviate people from poverty. They want to deliver people from slavery. They want to stop trafficking. They want to heal the earth. They want to bring hope and dignity to the very people that are suffering and underprivileged here. And deep down in every of this social enterprise, they know that, you know, if they were to do good sustainably, they also have to sustainably be doing well at the same time. You know, and, you know, yesterday there was a, during one of the seminars, you know, there was a question that was asked to the panelists here. And I thought it was a great question. And the question was this, and this was addressed to the social enterprises, right? That say, hey, if there's only one ask that you can ask for, if there's only one ask that you can ask for, and that with a magic wand, that ask would be fulfilled, what would that ask be for you? And I thought the best answer came from Daniel of Pop Jai Thai restaurant that hires the marginalized here in Singapore to run this whole entire, you know, what they call the entire, you know, Thai Pop Jai operations here, right? And I thought he gave the best answer. And his answer was this: if there's only one ask, you know, that I can ask of, then the only thing I ask of is that I want to have customers. And when he said that, it brought a smile to my face. You know, why? Because I was telling myself, hey, Daniel, whatever you ask for, which is the customers, I'm also asking for myself, customers. You are a social enterprise. I am a commercial enterprise. There's no gray area in what we need here, right? And why is that? Because customers, you know, brings us sustainability. Customers provide for us in such a way that we are able to do what we do best every day to serve the very people that we are serving. And I love the way Daniel puts it, right? He said, hey, look, you know, in order to bring these customers, if I really want them, I must give them the best experience. I must give them the best service. I must give them the best food available here so that these customers become the people that funds my business. They're my funders. They are my investors. They are people that keeps me sustainable. And that's precisely it, isn't it? For us to be sustainable, we need to keep our operations. We need social enterprises, you know, to be in tip-top condition, to be at their very best here. And you and I know this for a fact. We are all in the commercial world, or we have worked in the commercial world at one point in time or other. We all know this. When you are running, you know, a top of class in an enterprise, social enterprise or otherwise, it doesn't matter. When you are running a really, really good operation that's impactful, influential, and sustainable, you never ever come to this organization and offer your leftover time, your leftover talent, your leftover treasures. You never ever do that. But instead, you bring the very best of what you have, who you are, and what you do, right? And you bring it on full on to be able to lead your people, to be able to lead the organization so that it can really fulfill its mission and do the very best for everybody that they are trying to serve here. And that is the reason why we are here today. The question that you and I ask here today is, you know, how can we, you know, be at our very best here to serve people that we want to serve? And this is where we are going to talk about REFRAME. Now, a lot of you, when you look at the topic REFRAME, you're not very sure what REFRAME is. Well, let me just share this very quickly with you. REFRAME is a process that seeks answer to one question. And the question is this: who are you when you're truly in your element, impacting the world around you? Who are you? You know, when you're truly in your element, impacting the world around you. Now, so the question is, you know, who are you as a leader? Who are you as the entrepreneur? Who are you, you know, as what do you call it? As a father, as a mother, as a friend? Who are you when you're truly in your element that is impacting people around you? Now, if you have a clear answer to that question, then you're doing it right. You are really at the top of a game, leading people, leading organizations in the way they should be led, in the way you should be doing it. But if you and I are struggling to describe who are we like when we are truly in our element, impacting the world around you, then maybe this talk would help you a little bit. I hope to do three things, you know, through this sharing with everybody here. One, I really hope to inspire you, you know, on the possibilities that could be. Number two, I hope to disrupt your thinking a little bit about, you know, how can you be at your very best every day? And the third one essentially is this, right? I hope to compel you to make some life-changing decisions, first for yourself, and then for the social enterprises and for the relationships that you are part of today. So let's get going. Many of us, by the way, and I'm going to be sharing with you a number of concepts and ideas here, and go along with me. If you have any insights, any whatever, go ahead and just plonk them onto the chat box here, right? So first thing on the block here, we are subconsciously amazing, but we are consciously normal. Now, who resonates with that, right? Have you ever said something or did something and you go, oh my gosh, that was really amazing. That was really, really cool. My gosh, I wish I have the courage to dare to say that in front of everybody. Or my gosh, I wish I have the ability to repeat the performance all over again. For some strange reason, when we are conscious, we are normal. We are doing things normal. And, this may not be directly related to what I'm saying here, but yesterday I heard something, from one of the speakers here, and he says, normally what do we do? Normally we are trying to, run broken businesses with broken things. I say, why would you do that? Because that's normally what we do. It's kind of strange, right? We are subconsciously amazing, but we are consciously normal. My challenge to you, all my friends here out there, is that let's not do that. We can actually do better. We can actually make amazing normal every day. And the only way we can make amazing normal every day is when we know who we truly are, when we are in our element, impacting the world around us. The second idea I want to share with you right off the bat here is success and happiness here. Let me ask you a quick question here. Now, do you pursue success in order to find happiness, or do you first find happiness and then find your success, right? Think about that. Do you find success first and then happiness, or do you find happiness and then eventually you find success? Now, if you are running a social enterprise, then let me just posit this idea to you here. I think, in my personal opinion, and just watching you guys at work, in the SE work, it is really, really hard. I cannot do what you guys do here. And I just think out loud to myself, right? If you get into a social enterprise thinking that you can find success, right, serving the people, and because of that, you're going to find happiness, my suspicion is that more often than not, you're going to be disappointed. Because when you think you're arrived at something, there's going to be a lot more at the back end here. But so this happiness that you get, is that truly what you're looking for? I love what George Bernard Shaw here, right, where he talks about success, right? And he says, look, there are two sources of unhappiness in life. The first one is not getting what you want, not getting the success that you want. And the second one is actually getting it, right? And this put us in a very stark realization of some of the things that we're doing, particularly when we are talking about social enterprise here. Because when you and I agree and decide to get onto this platform here, ladies and gentlemen, we have just agreed to sign on to the game of the impossible. This is a game, that perhaps may never, ever be fulfilled in your lifetime. And if success is your measurement of happiness, then you're going to be sorely, sorely disappointed here. But in this game of the impossible, it is really, truly the other way around, right? It's about finding happiness in order to find the success that you want here. Why is that? Because happiness never, ever evolve or revolve around success here, right? But it's actually the other way around. It is actually success that revolves around happiness. The sun never, ever revolves around the earth, but it's always the earth that's revolving around the sun. So it is success that revolves around happiness here. And at the very core of happiness here is this very simple idea. It's purpose, right? It's that purpose that you and I have been hardwired for. It's that purpose that you and I have been designed for. That if you truly know what your purpose is, then you will know, what's the meaning of your life, what is the impact of your life, what is the influence of your life, and what is it that is about the elements of your life that makes you truly impactful to the people around you here. Now, in order to talk about purpose, I want to share, Peter Drucker's thinking a little bit with you. Now, this guy, Peter Drucker, he's all about purpose. He's also a guy that incidentally talks, I think he was one of the few early people that really talk about social enterprises being sustainable in order for them to be impactful here. He's written a number of books, regarding that. Go check him out here. Peter Drucker is also a giant in the business world. A lot of his thinking is adopted into modern day business management today. And he's a great observer of people and of life here. And the way he sees people, he sees their life in two parts, life number one and life number two. Now, these two lives, right? Life one, life two, they are not separate lives. They are not singular lives, but they are perspective that actually exist together, right? It's just a different perspective on how we live our lives here. So let me just explain very quickly right now. Life number one, what is that? Peter Drucker looks at life number one as a life that we spend all our time trying to make a living. It is a life where we spend all that time, all that energy, all that sacrifices, going to school, climbing up the corporate ladder, making sacrifices to learn new things, slogging long hours, right? The whole idea is to bring bread back home, is to bring rice back home, is to bring the bacon back home, right? It is about making a living. And that is absolutely a good thing to do. And a lot of the social enterprises that we are doing is very focused on helping people achieve that life number one. It's about making a living. Now, then there's the second life, which is life number two. Now, what is life number two? Life number two is not just about making a living, but life number two is also about making a life. Right? It is a life that is focused on how do I get, purpose behind everything that I'm doing. It is a life that is about, being more engaged, being more impactful, being more meaningful in everything that we do, being more energized, being more satisfied. It is that life that amplifies the capabilities that we have achieved and acquired in life number one. So if life number one is about making a living, then life number two is really about making a life. And Peter Drucker observed this about people. He found out that people in life number one, every one of us, almost every one of us around the world, we are over prepared for life number one. But when it comes to life number two, we are grossly underprepared for life number two. Right? The way I look at it is that we are professionals in life number one. We're professionals in making a living, in going to work and going to the office and doing the stuff that we do. But when it comes to life number two, the meaning, the impact, the purpose, and all that, we are mere professionals. Now, you may be wondering, why is it that I'm sharing all these things, with social entrepreneurs out there who are already, I thought, already in life number two? Well, if that's your thought, I want you to hang on to that for a while, because hopefully as I share more, you'll understand why we are talking about this here. So life one, life two. Professionals in life one, but mere amateurs in life number two. What Peter Drucker observed is that many of us, we sometimes bring what we know in life number one, and we try to use it on life number two, but it doesn't quite work that way, right? Why is that? Because we do not know how. Jim Collins, the guy that wrote the book, From Good to Great, he made a really astute observation here. I'm going to quote him first before I explain to you what he talks about in life number two. He says, why capitulate to irrelevance after we spend decades accumulating empirical wisdom? Why capitulate to irrelevance after we spend decades accumulating empirical wisdom? Let me just explain this to you in simple English, right? English. He's basically saying this. Why is it that we spend all our time, all our energy, all the sacrifices that we've made trying to figure out what life number one looks like, right? Where we learn all the skills, all the experiences, all the knowledge and all that. But when it comes to life number two, which is really about making our life more impactful, more meaningful, more purposeful, more engaging, for some strange reason, we take everything that we know about life number one and we throw it all away, and we are trying to start it all over again. It's as if when we come to the social enterprise, we try to look at it from a totally different lens without looking at it from the lens that we actually are quite familiar with from life number one. He is saying, look, all those different experiences that we have in life one, all those different skills, all those different things that we've gone through that tells us what is it that we are good at, what is it that we are not good at, what is it that we love to do, what is it that we hate to do, what is it that makes us come alive, what is it that kills us, right? He says, look, all these are the data points that gives us the empirical wisdom, right, to really understand what life two is all about. If you and I would have paused and look back into our life number one, and begin to identify the moments of significance in our life, begin to identify, all the different things that we have learned, the good, the bad, the ugly, right? The things that attracts us, the things that repels us. you'll realize that all these data points of your life and my life, and when you join them up, they actually shows you the trajectory of the story of your life here. They actually point the way to what your purpose in life could look like. It points the way to what your purpose in that social enterprise looks like. It points the way to the element of who you are, that you're able to impact the world around you. That is the trajectory here. So I'm going to pause here for a moment. Life one, life number two. Where are you? Are you full on life one? Or are you full on life two? Or are you full on both? Or is one bigger or clearer than the other? Whatever it is, if something is tugging at your heartstrings right now, my friend, I'm going to ask you to give yourself full permission to reinvent yourself all over again. Give yourself full permission to reinvent yourself all over again, right? Give yourself full permission to look back at life one and ask yourself, hey, how much better, how much bigger, how much clearer, how much brighter can my life number two be like if I were to pause for a moment and understand it and project that? One of the things that's going to stop you and I from moving forward is status quo here. I'm going to share something about status quo here from my personal experience here. Status quo, I think, is the greatest enemy to the best things in life here. And one of the things here that I've learned is this: nothing stays the same forever. Nothing stays the same forever. For those of you who are born in my era, you understand what these little things are like, right? We no longer use cassette tapes here. Nothing stays the same forever. And if you are hanging on for dear life, you say, look, I'm doing well. I'm not going to change whatever it is. Well, good for you. But I'm going to tell you this one thing here, right? Status quo, hanging on to that, could potentially be your greatest enemy to the best things for you, to the best things for your social enterprise, to the best things for everything that we are doing here. So what would you focus on, my friends? Would you focus on life number one and grow that even bigger? Or would you focus on life number two and grow that even brighter? Because what you focus on grows bigger. Farmers do not harvest at the last minute. Now, you and I know this really simple idea. No farmers in the world, get up at 5 o'clock in the morning, plant a seed at 5:30, and expect, to harvest by 6:30 or 7 o'clock in the morning. Things like this just do not happen, right? Because every farmer that are wise and that are experienced, right? They know that there's a season in time. They know that they have to plow the land. They know they got to let certain things take root. They know they got to learn. They know they got to water, till, and irrigate and all that. Same thing. You and I, if you're struck by what I'm saying, you're resonating with what I'm saying, then I'm going to ask you a simple question here, right? Are you prepared to start farming your life today? Now, don't worry about how young, how old you are. Answer the first question answer this first question first, right? Which is, would you be prepared to start farming your life number two today? I want to share a simple idea with you, and it's called 70 years in 7 days. Now, just imagine that our life is for 70 years, right? We are here for 70 years, and I know that in today's standards, people live, to 80, 90 years. But let's just take 70 years as a measure of, as a basis for comparison here, right? Now, just imagine then that we're going to live to 70 years across 7 days. Every day represents 10 days of your life here. So I'm going to get onto my blackboard here and share with you what I mean by this, right? So essentially, think about say Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, right? So all these are 7 days in a week, and every day represents 10 years of your life here. So I was 18 years old when I was drafted into the Army. In other words, on Tuesday evening, right? On Tuesday evening, I was, drafted into the Army. And then I got married then I graduated, then I entered the university at the age of 21 years old, which means, I went into the university, on a Wednesday morning. I graduated, I think, around 25 years old. So actually on Wednesday afternoon, I graduated. I got married at the age of 27, which means, on Wednesday evening, I got married. And at 28 years old, I have my first child, which means on Wednesday night, I got my kid, my first kid. That's super fast, right? Get married in the afternoon, have a child in the evening here. The first time I understood this concept here, I was about, I think, 39 years old. So at 39 years old, essentially, I was actually on my Thursday evening here. And I remember distinctly the thought that went through my mind when I realized that my life in the span of 1 week is on a Thursday evening. I told myself, Friday is coming. My weekend is around the corner. And my week is about to be over. And I kept saying this over and over to myself again and again and again. Friday is coming tomorrow. My weekend is around the corner. And my week is about to be over. This year, I am 57 years old, which means I am actually on my Saturday evening. In the space of this 1 week here, you know, Sunday is tomorrow, and my week is about to be over. When I realize, you know, the span of my life in the context of this analogy here, you know, it brought certain focus to the things that I have been doing. I asked myself, Kim Poong, where are you right now? Life 1 or life 2? When are you going to get on board life number 2 and get clearer on who you are truly when you're in your element, you know, that is impacting the world around you? Are you prepared, Kim Poong, you know, to begin to get on board and get clearer on what your unique purpose is, on what your unique meaning in life is in whatever you're doing, be it commercial enterprise or social enterprises here? There's a certain urgency, my friends, you know, about our lives here. Status quo, like I said, is the enemy of the greatest things in life. You think you can do this tomorrow, you think you can do this a year, 2 years later, but sometimes tomorrow, the year, 2 years later may never come. There is a certain urgency here. And we have the power to decide to be creative, to be destructive, or to be bland. You decide. You know, how you run your business, how I run my business, how you build the relationships, how I build my relationships. We can choose to be creative, to be destructive, or simply just tasteless, bland. And whatever we choose, it's all in our mindset here. It's all about what we decide to do here. And I want to share, you know, a really famous personality here with you. We all know who this guy is. He is Bruce Lee, right? We all know him. And I'm going to share something about what Bruce Lee did. I never knew this until I did some research, you know, some years ago, and I found out that back in 1969, Bruce Lee was an unknown actor. I think he was acting in the Green Hornet as a part player here, but nobody really knew him. Everybody do not know who he is as the Oriental guy, right? They only knew him with a mask. And he was frustrated. He wants to break out, you know, into Hollywood and become a big superstar here. And in 1969, he wrote himself a letter. I'm going to read the letter right now. And he says this: I will be the first highest paid Oriental superstar in the United States. I will give the most exciting performances and render the best of quality in the capacity of an actor. You know, starting in 1970, I will achieve worldwide fame. And by the end of 1980, I will have in my possession $10 million. This letter that he wrote to himself was written in 1969. In 1970, he achieved worldwide fame. In 1970, he accomplished everything that he had written in the letter, including the $10 million. And then in 1973, 3 years later, he passed away and he died. Now that is tragic. You know, let it sink in for a little moment, right? And just imagine, what would this world look like without Bruce Lee? Think about that. If that guy never ever wrote a letter to himself saying, look, you know, I'm going to do this, right? He may never ever become the legend that we know him to be today. I want to quote Jim Elliot, a missionary to the South, to the Americas here, right? And he says, you will not do incredible things without an incredible dream. Bruce Lee had an incredible dream. A lot of social entrepreneurs have an incredible dream. And that's why a lot of you, you know, are doing really incredible things today. But if you don't have that, you can't do anything incredible. Let me give you another one. If you imagine less, less will be what you undoubtedly deserve. If you imagine less, less will be what you undoubtedly deserve. And that's by Debbie Milton, a coach, right? I love this very much. And that reminded me of what Tommy from Green Hope said, I think 2 days ago. He said this, and it struck me when he said that. He said, you know, I think we have to reimagine in order to make people happier. That is so cool. You know, the social enterprises that you're in, if you're in it for a long time, I want to challenge you, my friends. Can you reimagine your process? Can you reimagine your business? Can you reimagine the way you do old things in new ways here so that you can make the very people that you're serving happier? If you imagine less, less will be what you undoubtedly deserve. And the last, you know, saying here is this, right? Who you say you are or not, you become. Now, who said that? Well, I just did, right? Who you say you are or not, you become. When you say you want to become something and you try, there's a great possibility that you can become that. But when you say, no, I can't do that, no, we are not that, no, that's not gonna happen, then forever and ever and ever, you never ever become that. Who you say you are or not, you become. So what do we do? How do we reframe our thinking? How do we reframe, you know, what we have to focus and answer the question, who are we like when we are truly in our element, impacting the world around us? Well, the answer is actually here, right? It's focusing on what you have. What I'm suggesting here is that all the answers that you're seeking to answer that question, it's all within you. It's all in front of you. It's all around you. And there are three things really that, you know, you are really, you know, really wanting to pay special attention to getting greater clarity on what this is all about. And let me just get back to my blackboard again to share with you what these three things are. The first thing, well, so these are the three things, right, that you really need to get a hang of, get clearer at if you're answering the question, who are you truly like when you're truly in your element, impacting the world around you? The first thing that you want to find out, essentially, is your strength. You know, what is it that makes you strong? What is it that makes you you here, right? And think of strength as something being your best how. This is how you do things at your very best here. You know, some of us actually, we do a lot of things and we do things different ways and all kinds of stuff. And we find that, my gosh, we're not very good. We're not as good as the other guy next door. Why is that? Could it be possible that you're not using your strength, but you're trying to copy somebody else's strength? Because every time when you're not using your own strength, you actually feel weaker, you actually feel less effective, less productive, right? So the first thing to figure out is, what is your strength, which is essentially your best how. This is how you build relationships uniquely through your own special ways. This is how you plan and strategize. This is how you influence people. This is how you uniquely, you know, get things done. Don't copy other people, but figure out what your unique how is so that intentionally and frequently and over time, you can continue to practice that over and over again, and that makes you better. And there are three simple ideas that you want to look out for to figure out what your strengths look like. Number one, figure out what are the things that are your natural talents here, right? What are your talents? Now, talents are, I won't spend too much time here, but I'm just going to go really quickly on this. Talents are something that makes you really natural in responding to your environment around you, right? It makes you quicker and faster. It lets you be more sensitive and more focused to particular areas around you, to people, to the way they do things. And because of the unique focus, you are able to do it faster and quicker than anybody else here. That's a talent. The second thing that you want to figure out is, what are the skills that they have? And the third thing is, what are the knowledge and the experience that you have or that you require to be able to allow you to bring your best how to whatever you're doing. So that is your strength. The second thing that you want to find out essentially is your passion. Now, when I talk about passion here, I was telling myself, Poong, are you preaching to the choir here? These guys that are on board here, they're all passionate people. You know, why are you talking about passion? But hey, spare me a moment here and let me just talk this through. The second thing that you want to find out is really your passion. And what is passion? Soren Kierkegaard, you know, a philosopher, you know, described passion as the hope of the possible. He talks about passion as something that makes you angry, something that makes you sad, something that makes you ecstatic, something that makes you energetic, something that makes you really, really crazily hopeful, right? That is passion. And there are three things, and passion. If strength is our best how, then passion essentially is our best why. This is why you do certain things, right? It is that unstoppable motivational force that drives you forward. It makes you willing to get your hands dirty. It makes you very willing to make many sacrifices, to learn new things that you never knew of. Passion drives you to do things in an unstoppable way here. And there are three things that you want to look for in what you're passionate about. One, it is something that you value deeply. You value very deeply. Secondly, it is something that fascinates you. Every time you see that particular thing happen, you go, my gosh, this is so cool. This is so exciting. It fascinates you. And the third thing about passion is that it is something that is truly emotional. You got to feel it, right? If you don't feel it, okay, figure out why you're not feeling it. But from my experience talking with people, seeing people in action, people with passion has emotions towards that area. Let me share one quick thing. I am one of those lucky people that actually had the opportunity to feel my passion first before I actually do my passion. Most of us will do passion first before we feel it. I just belong to that small group of minority, right, that happen to be able to feel it first before I do it. Now, I'm a coach, I'm a trainer, and I run a coaching training business here in this region here. But I was never always like this, right? I was never a coach, 10 years ago. But that's exactly what happened to me. 10 years ago, I attended a huge conference at the invitation of somebody. They said, hey, come join us for this coaching conference here. It was a coaching power session for coaches coming together. And I was sitting in the room here, and the head coach went up to the front of the desk and began sharing about what coaching is and what they're doing to people. Now, at that point in time, guys, I've never been in coaching before, zero. I don't know what coaching is. I've never been coached before. But something strange happened to me that morning. As I listened to Jeff Spatafora, the head coach of their organization, sharing about coaching, something in my heart went crazy. It began to beat like crazy. My heartbeat went up like I don't know how many times, right? And then I felt blood just, my bloodstream just coming up to my temples and my temples squeezing in. And I felt this intense pressure in my heart, in my head, and I was hyperventilating. I thought I was having a heart attack, but I wasn't. But I was having a moment of significance, and I was like, gosh, what's going on here? Why am I feeling so excited? And as I was feeling all these physical emotions, right in my brain, I was telling myself, whatever that guy is doing, I want a little bit of that. Whatever he's doing it in the way he did it, I want a little bit of that. That was my glimpse of what my passion looked like, and that became my unstoppable why. Today, I really want to help people figure out, what their passions are and become really, really good in that. So passion, three things: value deeply, something that fascinates you, and something that drives emotions in you. And that is your best why. The third thing that you want to find out essentially is your best role, ROLE. Now you may say, gosh, I know my role. I'm an entrepreneur. I am a leader, I'm a father, I'm a mother, that's my role. Well, yeah, but that's not your best role. A lot of people that I know, you may be a leader, but you may not know your role as an encourager. You may be a father, but you may not know your role as a friend. You may be a social entrepreneur, but you may not know that your best role is one of a disruptor, right? So think about that. Think of role. So if strength is your best how, and then your why, your passion is your best why, then your role essentially is your best what. This is what you do. This is your sharpest point. This is your sharpest edge. This is what you do that puts a big dent in everything that you're doing. If you were not to be performing that role in a particular organization, in a social enterprise, or in whatever space that you're in, people will notice your absence. Not that you're just physically absent, but people will miss the influence, the impact of whatever you bring to the table. And there are three things that you and I want to find out about our role. Number one, who do we serve? Number two, where do we serve? And number three, what do we do? Right? Who do we serve? Where do we serve? And what do we do? And I just want to give you a simple analogy here. You may be a social entrepreneur starting a social enterprise here, but maybe your best role may not be on the board of directors. Maybe your best role may not be in front of funders or investors. Maybe your best role is in the kitchen where everybody is and serving them and working together with them. Think about that, right? You may be the starter of the social enterprise, but what is your best role that brings your most pointed edge, that brings life to these people here? You know, I just want to digress a little bit here, and I just want to say something okay, let me not digress. Let me come back to this again, and then I'll digress. So if you look at your strength, which is your best how, and you look at your passion, which is your best why, and you look at your role, which is the best what, when you put all these things together, there is this center sweet spot over here. This essentially is your best who. This is who you are when you are truly in your element that is impacting the world around you. This sweet spot here is your element here. If you know your element, you can get out there and do something really, really crazily good here. And this is where I want to digress. Because as I was sharing with you just now, I was reminded of a story many, many years ago when I was, serving a group of 15-year-old kids here, right? And I asked them a simple question. What is the difference between doing your best and doing your creative best, right? The question is, what is the difference between doing your best and doing your creative best? And there was a 15-year-old boy by the name of Ryan, and he said this to me. He said, Kim Poong, the difference is this, I think. Doing your best means you try hard. You just try, and if you can't do it, you can't do it. That's called doing your best. And I think many of us do that. We give our best. We try everything in our power to do that. We do our best. But doing creative best is something very different from doing our best. And this is what Ryan said. Remember, he's 15-year-old. And I thought this boy, who's now a man, is really, really wise. He said, Kim Poong, the word creative comes from the word creation. And where there's creation, there is life. And when you are doing something that is your creative best, you are bringing life to yourself. At the same time, you're bringing life to people that is around you. Wow. When I heard that from Ryan, it blew my mind. It really blew my mind because it really made me stop telling myself, Poong, do your best. From that day onwards, I use very little of that phrase, doing my best. I use very little of phrase on people that I work with, doing your best. I really hate using the word right now, doing your best. But I want to challenge you and I want to challenge people that I know. How can we do our creative best? How can we do our creative best such that it brings life to you, it brings life to people around us? You can do that if you know your strength, your passion, and your role here. Whatever you're trying to find out, ladies and gentlemen, they are in plain sight. It is right in front of you. It is right inside you. It is right around you. You may need a process to help you figure all this out here. And if this is something that you want, can I suggest this, right? We are running a REFRAME Masterclass this coming 9th to 11th of June here. If you want more information on what it entails, how much it costs and all that kind of stuff, go ahead and click on the QR code here. And I will send you more information that you require, or you can just send us an email, info@strengthasia.com. So I'm coming to the end of my sharing here, and I just want to ask that question again. Who are you when you're truly in your element, impacting the world around you? If you have clear answers to that question, it's going to transform your social enterprise by first transforming you here. And I want to end this session by quoting Howard Thurman, a Black philosopher who lived in the 1800s in the United States of America. And he said this: don't ask what the world needs and go do that. Ask instead what makes you come alive and go do that. Because what the world needs are men and women who have come alive. Don't ask what people need and go start the social enterprises, but ask what makes you come alive and go start the social enterprises here. Because when you come alive, when you know who you are, when you're in your element, when you know your strength, your passion, your role, when you know what you do that is your most pointed edge, you come alive. And in turn, the people that you touch, the people that you are part of, they in turn will come alive. So with that, I hope I've done those 3 things that I told you I wanted to do. Hopefully inspire you a little, disrupt your thinking a little, and hopefully compel you to make some life-changing decisions for yourself and for people around you. So with that, Melvin, back to you. Thank you. You're on mute, Melvin. Yeah.
Hi, thank you so much, Kim Poong. Wow, I never cease to be encouraged and amazed because it always challenges me. All right, it'll be great for some interaction. Let me look at some of the questions that is listed, and I want to encourage the rest. As you listen, please post other questions as well, right? There's one that comes from Jackie Yap. Oh, it's a good friend of ours. Hey, Kim Poong, that's really inspiring. I just wish to visit the 770 concept again. 70 years in 7 days. May you share some of the cases you have done with other people so that we could have more practical ideas to do it ourselves?
Okay. One of the really interesting things when I was sharing the story of 70 years in 7 days was this, okay, so I'm 57 years old this year, and I remember at the age of 39 years old, I'm not sure how old you are, Jackie, but at the age of 39 years old, when I saw my graph, right, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, at 39 years old, I was actually on a Thursday evening. And to be honest, I was very disappointed with my life. And subsequently, I met many different people who are in the same boat as me, right? They're 35 years old, they're 41 years old, they're 45 years old. And up to that point in time, they felt that they have not done anything significant. They felt that life was still so-so, right? Life number one was okay, but life number two wasn't anywhere amazing. And they were kind of like, I think we are too late. We missed the boat, we are old already, so why try so hard, right? And I was in the same space here. I did tell myself, my gosh, I'm no longer like those people who are in the 20s, in the early 30s, they have the future ahead of them and they're charging ahead. Until I realized something really interesting. Peter Drucker. If you do some research on this guy here, you'll notice one thing about him. He wrote many, many, many books. But all those books that people know him for, they were all written, when he was at the age of 70 years old and above, right? Mm. He wrote 2/3 of all his books from 70 years old onwards. Those that are before, not so famous. Those that are ahead, people, read them, people use them, people are just struck by them. So the influence of somebody is not determined by age, but the influence of somebody is determined by intention. The second thing that I think about 70 years in 7 days is because of the time concept, right? It allowed me to understand something a lot better. I no longer tell myself that I need to get clear on something in order to do something. The truth is this, people, you and I can never get clear on our strength or get clear on our passion or get clear on our role. We cannot get clear on our purpose and say, oh, because of that, boom, let's go do it, right? No, but we can get clearer. I love what Sharon Lim of Browseware, said at one point in time. She says, when you're in business long enough, you realize that you are never clear about what business is all about. You only get clearer through your experience, and because of that, you do better. I love that. So I think part of this whole idea, Jackie, is to get people to reframe their thinking a little bit about, because how you think determines how you act, right? So if you think that I need to be clear in order to do this thing for my social enterprise, then you may never ever get going on that. You may never ever have the courage to get started on that. One of my own personal pet phrases is success is action. Success is not perfection. Success is action. Success is not clarity, right? But it's about doing something so that you get greater clarity so you can do a little bit more, right? Cool. Back to you, Melvin.
Yeah, all right. Wow. Your example about quoting Peter Drucker, that when he really hits his sweet spot, at 70s. It's amazing.
Yeah.
Well, I think you would agree that we don't need to wait until we reach that before we do that, because it's like we are at the Sunday of our life. I just
but Melvin, think
remember
about it.
what,
Melvin, think about it. I am actually 13 years away from being 70 years old. Can you imagine? That's kind of scary, you know.
Yeah.
That is so
Well,
scary.
I think it's really very helpful, vivid, when you compress your life 70 years into a week. That was really very helpful, because it brings to, into the front our purpose. I remember this lady, her name is Joan, all right, from Thoughtfully Good.
Yes.
She was a
yes.
Wall Street banker, all right? And I think she's probably late 20s, early 30s, but she got that moment of finding a purpose. And she gave up her Wall Street, banker kind of role, and came back to Singapore, Malaysia, and started something that deals with, helping, doing good, lifting the people out of poverty through enterprise. I was really, very, very encouraged by that. So yeah, whether you're in your early 20s, late 20s, or 70s, I think that's, always a good time to start when you find that, right?
Melvin, can I just chime in on this, right? As I listen to the story of many people who started social enterprises, you see this common what do you call that, sequence, right? And I'm not belittling people who does that, but I'm just saying, look, not every one of us need to do that. So it doesn't mean that, to be involved in a social enterprise, you have to give up your, high paying job, or you're going to give up your, your career of some sort, so that you can really roll up your sleeves, and get into the mud with everybody here, right? It doesn't have to be that, because sometimes your best role, sometimes your best point is really serving the social enterprises, from the position of strength, influence, and power, right? Because through that, you actually can bring a lot more contribution to people. And I'm going to say this, right? For some people, it just makes sense for them to just get out from whatever they're doing and plunk themselves into the social enterprise. But for most of us, life one and life two exist together. Some of us, not us, right? But some of you, you're financially independent. So you no longer need to work anymore. Yeah, sure. And that you can get into that space completely, right? But most people, they're toggling on two words here, right? And I am going to ask you, do not be in a hurry to abandon one for the other, but take time to experiment. Take time to test the process. I often tell people, do a little, see how it feels, see what it gives you, right? Then do a little more, right? And before you know it, you're going to get it. I'm going to do more of that. And before you know it, it becomes overflowing. So a little more, and then overflowing, right? Back to you.
Yeah, that's good. That's good. And there's a question here. I think that's relevant for us to flow into. It's from Hitesh. It says, do we compromise on life one when we start focusing on life two? As in many cases, life one is giving us bread and butter. How true, right?
Yeah, as I mentioned just now, absolutely not, right? Because life one and life two can coexist together. Life one is about making a life, and life two is about making a living. The fact is this, and this is my experience here. If you figure out what life two is all about, it amplifies your capabilities in life one, and in turn, it really provides you a lot more, success in whatever you're doing. One of my friends years ago told me this, and that was the most helpful advice he ever gave me. I asked him the question. I said, "Hey, should I? I'm sure you guys have heard this saying before, right? People just say all the time, "Oh yeah, the passion are for the people who are rich. Only the rich people pursue passion, right? No money, no passion." That's what they always say. But is that really true? And I did ask the question, years ago, should I be pursuing passion? Because at a point in time, remember the story, my heart was beating crazy. I was seeing coaching. I couldn't see how coaching could make money, right? And I asked my friend, I said, "Hey, look, should I pursue passion?" And he gave me a really cool answer. He said this: if you think that passion is truly your passion, if you think that life two is truly your life two, then plow yourself fully into it, right? without abandoning your life one still goes on, but really cut out time, good time, not leftover time, but good time, fruitful time, and invest into that passion, invest into that life too, and begin to really practice it, discover it, and use it. And before you know it, you become the best practice of that particular area of passion. And when you are the best practice of that passion, the revenue stream will chase after you. And that is exactly, what happened to me, friends. I pursued coaching. I pursued everything that I needed to learn to become a better coach, a better trainer, and all that. And the fact is today that I am just very grateful that my business is doing okay because the revenue stream is pursuing us. Sure, we reach out, but now it is people reaching out to us here. So I just want to encourage you, Hitesh, life one and life two can coexist together. Do not feel the pressure to give up one for the other, right? They can be together.
Yeah. What an advice. We say we earn the money so that we can enjoy the hobby, right? But how good it is if your hobby is what you are doing, to earn your money. And so every day is a hobby. But it's not easy. I think you need to, like you said, dip your toes into the water and test it, but be willing to dip your toes into the water. I think that's important, right?
Yeah.
All right. Here's a question from Chris.
Yeah, Christella,
Christabel, right? Yeah.
Go ahead,
What if
read that.
To get the liberty to do what I'm passionate about, I have to do things that I'm not passionate about? That's always a struggle.
Yeah. You know what? Remember what I said about life one? They are the data points of your life. Whatever you do, you're going to realize some things I love, some things I hate, some things I'm attracted to, some things I'm repelled by, right? Now, this becomes data points in your life here. And I say, look, don't pick and choose, try something. Because the more you do it, the more you realize, okay, this is going to build my strength. This is going to weaken me. This is going to make me better. So if you think about strength, passion, and role, it's just going to help you get clearer on all these three different key points here. I realized that I really do not like to do too much of numerical stuff, right? That's not something that I do well. But just because I don't do well and just because I don't like it doesn't mean I do not need it. I still need to learn skills in order to make it work for me. But as I grow older, I learned that, hey, maybe I could work it differently, or maybe I could get people to come and collaborate with me, or maybe I could, deploy some other systems or whatever to help me, get past those difficulties here. Doing something that we're not passionate about in life, number one, hey, that's a fact of life, right? Unfortunately, we cannot totally pick and choose. But if we are focused on what we are truly passionate about, it becomes that unstoppable motivational force that drives us forward to do the impossible. Right.
Yeah, thank you. Okay, that's one that comes from a friend of yours, I think, from a section. It says, Dear Kim Poong, thank you for this session, really inspiring and resonating. Good to see you again. Are the three circles of strength, passion, and role meant to combine and find the sweet spot of life 1 and 2? And does this complement the Strengths Finder test? So someone who knows about the Strengths Finder.
Yeah. So, basically, these are the three things they actually combine, and that is a sweet spot in the center here. Can it be life one, life two combined? Yeah, you can say that. Can it be life one on its own, life two on its own? Yeah, you can say that. There's no really there's no really fixed way of looking at this. But if you look at these three things here, strength, passion, and role, coming together, that is a sweet spot that you have. That describes who you are when you're truly in your element, impacting the world around you. Does StrengthsFinder help? It absolutely does here, right? So StrengthsFinder it's an assessment tool that helps you figure out, what are your potential of strength like. I use that to help people figure out about what their strength could look like in this space here. You could use, many other tools that are available, in the market here. So it's not restricted to just one tool here, right? Thanks.
Yeah. Hey, Poong, just a question. Okay, this one is not in the chat. but I thought it might be helpful for others. When you mention about strength, okay, you say it's the how, and then you will talk about one of the key things to note is natural talents, right?
Yep.
But is talent a strength? And
Oh, wow.
if it's not, then how does talent become strength? I mean, how do you, maybe you can walk us through the process of moving from a talent to a strength.
Yeah, okay, sure. So remember what I said just now, right? When I said, what's a natural talent? Now think of natural talent as something that you're much quicker and faster than people around you in the way you respond to that particular thing. You're much more sensitive, you're much more focused on noticing the absence or the presence of that particular thing. So for some of you, right, when you read a report, you may feel like, how come this report is so lousy? And maybe you're looking for facts and data, but you couldn't find any facts and data to support whatever that person is saying through the report. That's your sensitivity. That's your focus. You very naturally you're looking out for facts and data. For some of you, right, you walk into the room and for some strange reason, you're able to sense the emotions in the room. You can kind of know certain people are happy or sad, right? Even though they don't talk to you. Then you turn to your friend, you say, hey, how come Jane is so sad today? And the other guy turned to you and said, how do you know? She didn't tell me anything, right? Because he is not sensitive to that, but you are. So that's a natural sensitivity and focus. Now for me, right, I am very naturally, very naturally focused on the present. That means if I'm talking to you without trying too hard, I can very easily focus on what's happening right in front of me. So all these are our natural response to elements and things around us here. Now, think of them as a potential for strength. So because of my ability to focus on the moment, I am actually a highly adaptable person. I can throw away all my plans, or I may not plan for anything, but I can on the moment create something and move from there, right? Somebody with the emotion, that sense the emotion, without trying really, really hard, sometimes you can be the most caring person in the room. Hey, Jane, how are you doing, right? What's going on? For people with the facts and data, you could give really, really natural feedback and say, I think you need to support this with this detail here, this link here that will make your argument even stronger. So that's your natural. Now, how can that natural response become a strength? What is a strength? A strength becomes your power when you're able to will it, to use it at will, right? To use it intentionally, to use it frequently, to use it consistently that delivers a certain impact all the time. Now, my adaptability doesn't serve me all the time because sometimes my adaptability makes people feel that I am totally disorganized. So that's not a strength. It can be seen as a weakness here. So how do I go from there to strength? Well, it's a whole long process, but let me make it simple for you, right? Number one, know what your natural response is. Number two, know what skills do you need in order to combine with a natural resource, with a natural response in order to make it an action or an outcome that allows you to use it well. So for example, one of the skills that I've learned about using my adaptability is always be, not skills, but knowledge. One of the knowledge that I have around my adaptability is always be prepared no matter what. But once I get into the space, right, I can just abandon all my preparedness and I focus in the moment. And for some strange reason, my brain works in such a way where I can retrieve all kinds of things to serve whoever is in front of me in the moment, right? So that's combining my adaptability with knowledge. And skills is about creating frameworks that allows me to use different things at different points in time here. So I know it's a complicated answer here, and that's why we need a process to help people think it through, right? But the first starting point is to ask yourself, what is it that you're most sensitive to, most responsive to, most naturally focused on? That gives you an indication of what your potential strength is like.
Yeah, wow. That's great, man. That's your element. Huh? I suppose it's like we often say to someone, hey, you're a raw diamond, but a raw diamond, until it's polished, it's not in its best. So I suppose that process is moving from talent that is identified as a diamond to be polished up into something that is of value and so on. So that's a great process. Okay, that's a question that comes from PC. Okay, and that's interesting because he is asking, shouldn't there be a fourth circle? And that's the needs. In other words, most of the time when we look at strengths and so on, we look at it ourselves. It's all about me. But what about needs? What are the needs of the world? We can't just do things that make us happy. It seems a little selfish. Shouldn't we focus on how there are people who are suffering injustice and that we should strive for justice and shalom? Oh.
Yeah, I think that's a great question, PC. There are many needs in the world, but there are very few needs in the world that weighs heavily in the hearts of people here, right? So you can look around the world, millions of needs here, but maybe just one or two needs of the world really tugs at your heart here. And I agree with you, right? But when we talk about finding who you are when you are in your element, the focus is first on you, and then through you, the focus is on others. All right. Sometimes the least selfish thing to do is to first learn how to care for yourself. I always remember this, in an airplane, when they say, hey, in a turbulence and when the mask falls down, the first thing you do is not to put the mask on your children. The first thing is to put it on yourself, right? So that you are able to be in capacity to help others. In TBNAsia, I think we expound that same philosophy. We don't just want to do good, we also want to do well. And in order to do well, it's not just to let the enterprises do well, but it's also to let the entrepreneurs do well. Because if these entrepreneurs do not know how to care for themselves, if these entrepreneurs do not know how to be at the very best or to be in their element when they need to be, they cannot impact the needs of the world in which they are so passionate about. But if you really have to think about this needs equation in that three circles, then that needs piece actually falls into the value piece here under passion. Remember I said passion, there are three things: something that you value deeply, something that fascinates you, and something that is emotional for you. So there are certain needs whereby you are really, really driven to be focused on and wanting to serve, and that could very well be a value that you attach very strongly to, that drives you in an unstoppable force that allows you to do what you need to do. All right. So I hope I've answered your question in this manner here. Thank you.
Wow. Thank you. Which is so very true, because just like what you have mentioned about what TBN is doing in terms of equipping the entrepreneur. You see, the entrepreneur, the social entrepreneur is a multiplier. So if that multiplier is faulty and he gets things, he has a heart wanting to do things, but he trips over himself because those kind of what you have mentioned, the three things don't come together. And it kind of blunts his intentions, isn't it? So yeah, thank you so much. All right, I wonder, is there any other question? All right, we have about the last 8 minutes or so. So if you have questions, that would be great. If not, we can close it. But it's important that, like what Poong has said, if we were to develop more, it's something that you can connect with him. I don't know if you have after that, at the end of it, a slide to show people how to connect with you.
So maybe I could just chime in right now really quickly. So I think if you want to, let me just go to the slide here. Just go ahead and get onto this piece here, right? Just send an email to me, info@strengthasia.com. You can reach me at that particular email address with whatever questions you have. If you want to have information on the REFRAME thing, just click on the QR code and then you'll send to me, and then I'll reply you with more information.
Yeah, thank you so much. Yeah, that's easily done. Now, okay, one last question. I think I just saw it appearing. All right, it's from Craig. Hi, welcome, Craig. It says, do you use the Myers-Briggs personality test as an indication of strengths?
Okay, so for those who are familiar with Myers-Briggs, which is the MBTI, MBTI uses 4 different descriptions to come up with 16 combination of your personality. So you could be an extrovert, ENTJ, right? Extrovert, intuitive, thinking, and judging. That describes your personality. I don't use MBTI as an indicator of my strength. I would use MBTI as an indicator of what I look like when I am in front of people. You know, I'm an extrovert. I'm thinking. I'm intuitive. I'm judging. But strength is really about how. How are you being extroverted? How are you being introverted? How are you being intuitive? How are you being thinking? Or how do you think? Or how is it that you judge? How do you judge? On what basis? So I think there are 2 different levels, and they can be used, complementarily in trying to figure out, what your strengths look like. I, for one, do not believe that someone is totally extroverted and someone is totally introverted. I kind of believe that we are all ambiverts, right? We're sometimes extroverted and sometimes we're introverted. So we're ambiverts. We're right in the center here. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, one last question from Kai E. Are there typical strength profile of successful social entrepreneurs founders? I think that's great.
That's a great question. And if I say yes, then that essentially will limit many people from becoming a social entrepreneur. My response to that question, Kai, is that I don't think there are typical strengths, but I think there are typical mentality. They're usually very resolute. They're usually very passionate. They are usually very willing to go the extra mile to do what they believe in. So I think these are the attributes of a social entrepreneur. They also got a high sensitivity to a particular people group whom they want to serve. And they are very willing to, to invest of themselves and their resources, into this group of people here. So I wouldn't say that it's a typical strength profile, but I would say that there's probably a typical attribute profile about these social entrepreneurs. I'm not sure whether Melvin, you agree with me on this piece here.
Yes, absolutely. Because I think that social entrepreneurs, successful ones, comes in all shapes and sizes.
Yeah.
Different kind of profile. But I think that's why it's not kind of like a mold where we fit people into. I think really it's a process of bringing your strengths, networking skills, finding people who come alongside you. So there's a combination of things that actually can make you successful. And then I've seen social entrepreneurs like what you've said. Maybe my best role is not the CEO, although I founded the enterprise. Maybe my best role, I'm a marketing guy, example,
Right.
and it's fantastic. So that's great.
And I want to echo that. I want to echo that, Melvin. I want to echo that really quickly, right? So, you, Mason, and I, the 3 of us founded, TBNAsia here. And I remember telling you on year 1, right? I say, hey guys, I don't have the same passion as you guys, and I can't play the same role as you guys here, right? Why don't you guys go ahead and charge forward while I'll support you from afar behind? And the truth is this, the truth is that, both of you allowed me to do that, because you told me, years ago, it's like, Kim Poong, when the time is up, we're going to tap on, what you're really, really good in, and we're going to bring you in, and that is something that I thought, is really the DNA of what we're trying to do here. It's not about getting people to do everything, but it's about placing people in their best role, in their best strength, in their best passion, so that they can impact people in a very best way here.
Yeah. Thank you so much. I know that 1 or 2 more questions, but I think it's about time to close. But it's so important that as we share with you, not some concepts, we are basically sharing with you a life journey. like what Poong has said. Actually, when we begin TBN Asia, we don't know how to fit everybody in. Okay, so that's why Kim Poong said, well, I'll support you from afar. And that's quite far sometimes. But as we get into understanding what it needs to build strength, what it needs to lift up a social entrepreneur, because we have seen social entrepreneur just burn out. Social entrepreneur who has got a great vision, but the implementation somehow just got blocked, and they they disappear from the scene. How sad.
Yeah.
And we realized that all those things need to come together. That's why our social entrepreneurship training hub really brings all these things together. Now, before we go, I just want to remind you, there are a few things that we need to follow through. Number one, the next session, I'll talk to you about the next session soon. But number two is spread the word around. Oh, okay, the next session is there, all right. Tomorrow, it's not the morning, it's the afternoon. So we take a break. But tomorrow afternoon is great because we are combining the founders and the funders together for good, all right. Just yesterday, was it yesterday? Oh, today we combined the mentors and the mentees for good. So here's another combination that's very important. So that's why collaboration is a very key value for TBN. And then we're going to have what we call getting connected. Now, the important thing is that the tickets are still available. So we ask that you continue to do that, because remember, your tickets don't go to TBN. Your tickets payment actually goes into the resilience program. Remember that? And that's to really lift the social enterprises that are struggling during COVID-19. So please continue to do that. Help us spread the word around, and so that more people can sign up, because tomorrow and then Saturday is a great time together. We have our team here. You can connect with them. Their names are here. These are passionate people. Their emails are around, and you can connect with them. Okay, just lift this particular slide for like 3 seconds. All right, look at them. All right, great people, so inspired by working together with them. And then very important, on Saturday, we have what we call Social Enterprises Saturday. On Saturday, we have 68 social enterprises that are on display. They are like exhibitors, okay? They're all there. And then what happened is that 48 of them are ready, 46, I'm sorry, are ready to present. So on Saturday, between the time of 9 o'clock to about 3 p.m., we've got this 46 social enterprises who are making presentations. It's a great time to listen to their stories. It's a great time to say, hey, I want to connect with them, all right? So for this particular session on Saturday, I want you to help spread the word around. It's open to the public. In other words, all your friends gather them together. I know that this is, everybody is working from home, but Saturday is a break, all right? And get them to log in. And so you hear, I mean, you can decide, all right, I don't want to listen to this one, I want to listen to that one. The schedule will be up for you. So bring it together. And then we have a grand closing on Saturday where we get the whole TBN team together and answer some of your questions. Would that be all right? Great. So get ready. This is what we're going to do. We, once again, really, really very grateful for Kim Poong to share his work. I mean, he's basically teaching corporate people, organizations as well, on this whole idea of finding purpose, right? So virtually, let's put our hands together and thank Kim Poong, all right? And guys, thank you so much. I mean, you can pick up some things. There's some question that's around there. There's from someone from Nathan Chan, who works in the Haga in Cambodia, and they love to connect. So please connect with us, all right? Write to us at info@tbn.asia. Thank you so much, everybody. And we'll see you tomorrow afternoon. Remember, it's not the morning. So tomorrow we got 2 sessions, the noontime session, and then the afternoon session, late afternoon session at 5 o'clock. Thank you so much. Take care.
Thank you, guys.
Blessings.